Hello and welcome to Phoenix Unleashed, Episode 8. I am Schiffer Hendry, your host, and we're going to talk about frequency and how when you change your frequency, you change your life. Now, this is something that people do talk about in various circles, but obviously we're going to go to it, approach it from a deeper level in the context of the Torah, authentic Kabbalah, the blueprint for creation. So, I would like to just suggest that you start by closing your eyes and getting in touch with what upsets you about the world today? What bothers you about life today? What emotions are you experiencing when you think about government, when you think about health, when you think about people's consciousness, when you think about, well, I don't want to say everything, but when you think about what's happening in the world, what bothers you? What does it bring up? What kind of emotions does it bring up? And notice what those emotions do to your body. We can make this even simpler by just saying the word no. So, in the context of all of what's going on that is triggering you within the world, within your life today, let's add to that. And we won't stay with this, but let's just add to this by saying no, 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 no possibility. Nothing's going right. Things are going wrong. Who can you trust? What's wrong with people? Just notice what happens to your body, to your energy, to your frequency when you hear those words or say those words to yourself. So now we're going to switch gears and say and generate some other frequencies with some other kinds of words. So I have a list in front of me in living color, and I'm just going to read some of these off and just feel what it does to your body. So let's start to say yes to another possibility. Yes to another way of looking at things. And now feel the frequency of abundant, alignment, aliveness, self expression, serenity, peace, confidence, connection, consciousness, brilliant, bubbly, beloved, bold, brave, brash, uplifted, unique, unwavering, visionary, wise, purposeful, magical, laughter, genuine, authentic, intimate, joyful, pleasureful, heartfelt, nourished, nurtured, supernatural, sovereign, safe. And when you feel the vibration of those words, just notice what it does to your body. Our body is a barometer. Our body will give us very, very, very clear feedback on what's happening inside of us. And one of the most important things to learn is how to measure that feedback, how to be in touch, how to connect and listen, and how to measure and evaluate what's happening. Everything now is designed as a lesson to us, not just a lesson, something that we can learn, but it's designed as a catalyst that will trigger us into often trauma. And then from there, transformation. We're here to transform darkness to light. So if you want to be able to do that in a sovereign way, if you want to be part of the solution, if you want to be a player, you need to learn how to manage your frequency. First of all, you need to notice what your frequency is. Feel uncomfortable in your body, feel a sense of constriction in your chest, in your stomach, heaviness in your head, foggy. Now we're going to the lower frequencies. Know that there's something that is in your presence that is here to be shifted. Your mission is actually to shift these things. So I want to share with you pretty briefly, but in the rest of this live stream, I want to share something that my students and I are learning and studying in the school and in the influencer program. So this is based on a discourse from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which is designed, all of these discourses are designed to show us the path forward in these times, to show us the miraculous path forward in these crazy times. We're literally we are movers, transformers, moving from the frequency of exile, of aloneness, of sadness, of isolation, of never enough, of judgment, to the frequency of intimacy, co-creativity, miracles, abundance, divine love, illumination, souls revealed, oneness revealed, God revealed. So there is a beautiful world underneath what we see here, just like there's a sun shining from behind the clouds. We can't see it when we can't, because there are those clouds, and those clouds are our frequencies, our perceptions, our beliefs. So we want to learn, we want to practice, and we want to actually master making that shift, blowing away the clouds and allowing the authentic frequency to shine through. I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, there's a concept in the Torah that in Hebrew is davar v'hipucho, something and its opposite, a thing and its opposite. And the principle here, and these are laws of creation, the principle is that everything that exists under the sun, really not just under the sun, everything exists in the spiritual and physical world, is made up of two polar opposites, existence and non-existence, or light and dark, or life and death, or yes and no, or I see it, I don't see it. Everything defines itself by its opposite. We all know that. Like we say, we need a world of contrast. People sometimes say that so that we can experience. We can't experience light without experiencing darkness. We can't experience light, but those things are kind of true, but it's not the essence of the matter. The way that the world is created, everything exists as one. When you know that nothing is real except for infinite, divine, loving, all powerful, all protective presence that is here to help to reveal itself from within you and outside of you in the world. So you're going to experience things a different way, and the world will outproject. The world is an outprojection of our consciousness and frequencies, our emotions, and primarily those frequencies. So the world will start to show up in different ways. In fact, it is already starting to show up in different ways. They're just not all pleasant. Some of them are. There's a huge rise in spiritual searching and in technology, as we see, and in human potential and in awakening and in a connection to divinity. And there's also the opposite. So the way that God creates the world, davar v'hipucho, everything that exists is created as a package between what it is and what it isn't. In actual essence, it is what it is and what it isn't. Life, death is one thing. It's part of creation. There's no life or death outside of creation. There's just infinite being. Okay? Light, dark. There's no light and no dark outside of creation. If you're sitting in the middle of the sun, is it light? No, it's not light. It just is. Light is what we define the rays of light that are coming from the sun, as we actually, they're not even coming from the sun. They're not moving anywhere, but we're perceiving them because we are sitting at a distance from the sun. We are other than the sun, and we are separate from the sun in our perception, and therefore we can see the rays of light. Without that distance and separation, there would be no perception of the rays of light. The deeper truth is that everything that exists here is nothing but a perception, or a lot of different perceptions. But be that as it may, the way that the world is constructed is davar v'hipucho, the thing in its opposite, so that we can approach that deeper light from being distant, from being separate. We can reveal that deeper essence by finding the light and tracking its back to its source. And that happens only when we're sitting in a place of darkness. I'm using the word darkness and light to mean, separateness as opposed to connection, challenge as opposed to, victory, weakness, helplessness as opposed to divine power. These are deep, deep concepts. And I'm going to try to say the minimum so that it doesn't get too confusing. But the point here is that the only reason that we can exist as a starting point, our existence can start, creation can occur, is by God, who in this case we're comparing to the sun. Not that God is the sun is a creation, but often there are different parts of creation that are used as analogies to help us understand the creator. So in this analogy, we can imagine God as the sun, and everything that exists in creation as existing as part of the sun, But the thing is, it doesn't exist. Nothing exists in that level in a state of separateness. Everything exists as a potential that's not even thought about. Because to think about something, about light, you have to have the experience of darkness. There's no concept of something when you're connected to the reality of everything. So yes, again, a little bit mind stretching, needs much more exploration to actually experience it from the inside, although that is definitely possible and not that hard. But anyway, so the principle here is that in order to allow for the process of revelation within the individual, there has to be a concealment. Everything starts with concealment in order to allow the possibility of God being revealed not only outside of you, like was the case in the Garden of Eden and Gan Eden, but from within you. That means that it has to be concealed, and you have to show up as a very small, very limited, even distorted, opposite version of or representation of all there is of God. So here's the next principle: what conceals reveals. Everything, every bit, every circumstance, every manifestation of concealment of infinite divine light and infinite divine love is here as part of the process of revealing it. Revealing it where? Here. Revealing it how? Through us, not only around us, but through us. So this is a massive creative process for God to somehow come up out of Ein Od Milbado. There is nothing but the one. So where did the souls come from? Where did the people come from? Where did all of this come from? It came from a massive process of hiding the infinity of the divine light to make space for finite things to come into being. And then once those finite things, and particularly humans, are in being, are in life, because we are the only carriers of God's power of free choice, we are now in this project where we're inverting the concealment into revelation. It's a process. It happens step by step and stage by stage as we're making vessels to actually hold divine light bigger and bigger and bigger levels. Long story. The point here is that this revelation process, the Rebbe compares it to the idea of conquering the land of Israel. The Torah begins with the verse, Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And what does that mean? So the premier commentator on the Torah, on the 5 books of Moses, his name is Rashi, asked the question, why does the Torah begin with the word Bereshis in the beginning? Why does it begin with the story of creation? The purpose of the Torah on that level is to teach us how we're supposed to behave. Why does he have to tell us, what's the right word? Why does he have to give God title to the world? Why is that the very first thing that the Torah starts with? And the principle is that the beginning of something contains all of its essence. And Rashi answers, because there will come a time, prophetically, where the nations of the world will come to the Jewish people and they will say, you are robbers, you're thieves, you stole the land of the 7 nations. And Rashi says, what are we supposed to answer them? In the beginning, God created the world, the heavens and the earth. It's his. So it's his prerogative. It's his to say, I give this land to you, 7 nations. And it's his to say, now it's my will to take it away from you and give it to someone else. So he says literally that's what we're supposed to, we Jews anyway, are supposed to answer to the accusation, which is very prevalent right now, that we stole someone's land. But here's what I want to tell you. This is a fractal, like every story of the Torah. What's a fractal? A pattern of nature. It's a holographic pattern. There's a macrocosm and a microcosm. So what does this actually mean? Yes, it means what it says literally, but what does it actually mean for you? It means that your heart represents the land of Israel, and the land of Israel is actually the heart of the world. Your heart, according to Kabbalah, has seven midos, 7 qualities, which correspond to the 7 nations. What was the quality and characteristic of the 7 nations biblically? They were wild. They were barbaric. They weren't God believers. They were idol worshippers, and they fought with each other. So they were like in conflict, in destructive energy, doing their thing, not taking part, not part of the whole, but just out for themselves. And God created that situation as a starting point. What conceals reveals. Likewise, within your heart, there are these 7 attributes that are fighting it out with each other. That's why there's so much conflict. That's why when we make a decision or have a desire, we can't just easily just go and make it happen. It doesn't work like that, because they're you start out wanting something. That's chesed, in case you're interested in the Kabbalistic explanation. You're like going for something. Chesed, forward motion, loving kindness, a flow from the inside out. And then you have another part of you connected to chesed, which is gevura, which is don't hold back. No, I want to give. No, I don't want to give. And it goes this way all the way through the powers of the soul, one after the other, where each one in an unrectified state is controlling the heart. The heart is turbulent. Don't you experience that one moment you might feel really, really, really happy, like everything's possible in life, and then the next moment you might feel like nothing is possible and there's no hope? And that's not because the situation has changed. It's because the emotions of the heart, these 7 nations of the heart, have the power to hijack your mind. And they are made of frequencies. So every emotion has its specific frequencies. And when you are in an emotion of constriction, gevura, Mita, emotion attribute number 2, you're going to be feeling that constriction. You're going to be feeling that frequency. No, it's not possible. Something's wrong. It's not working. How could it possibly work? It can never work. It's not happening. It's too late. I'm too old. It's never going to work out. This is bad. I'm a failure. I hate this world. What's the point? And you want to constrict. I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's easy to feel like you want to constrict into a nothing, into a tiny disappearing dot, if it gets severe enough. And in the very same circumstances, in the very same world, you can have an opposite experience. Davar v'hipucho. Both exist as one, as separate manifestations or different manifestations, 2 sides of the coin, of the same thing. Okay, so you can change that frequency. Wait, it is possible. This is my mission. I'm here to transform darkness into light. If I'm here to transform, if I'm here to do a mission, then I'm a partner with the divine. That means what happens when you are in a partnership? You get access to the resources of your partner. That means it doesn't matter the state of the world. If I do what I have to do, what I'm here to do, then I get all the assistance that's needed. So wait a minute, my traumatic background doesn't mean that I don't have what it takes. It means that I'm in the special forces. It means that I am a transformer. I am a master of transformation in potential. And when you start thinking those things, it might not lift you up into joy right away, but it doesn't take that much to change the frequency that you're generating with your thoughts. Sometimes it's not even a change in thoughts. Sometimes it's a change in venue. Get out and take a walk in the sun. Have you ever been in a cold, sitting over your desk, or I don't know, trapped in the house or trapped at work, and it's just everything seems dull and void of love and happiness, and all of a sudden you walk out and the sun's there and maybe the river and the trees, and it's like, whoa, life. What happened there? Your frequency changed. Your brain is a generator. Your heart is a bigger generator, but your brain controls your heart. The thoughts that you focus on will create an automatic resonance from within your heart. So you want to learn the deeper truths of how this is meant to work, the deeper beliefs, that the core principles of creation, that we are here to turn darkness into light, that we are here as transformers, that we are here as partners, as co-creative partners, that just as the core state of God, the core state of being before and beneath creation is Ein Od Milvado. There was nothing here but the one. This is the story, the ultimate story of creation, of reality. There's only one. And then God had to invert that, to hide that reality in order to create the womb of creation in which we could experience a perception that there's many, including me, and that all the many are different. Like, how is it possible if there's only one and it's infinite and infinitely revealed? How is it possible that we could look around and see the world as it is, that we could look inside and see ourselves as we experience ourselves to be? And that is because of this massive inversion that God did, hiding the light and the revelation to create this womb of creation, and that's called the Tzimtzum. And within that womb of creation, everything exists and everything's playing it out. We've reached the end of the book. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, which is the whole body of the mystical Torah, to really understand it in its deepest depths, in the knowing, till the lights are on inside completely and you experience God completely within your own being. But we are at the end of the process where the reverse inversion has to happen. So the process, like gestation, the what happens to create a child, to conceive a child, something has to enter into the womb. And then the development happens, and all happens within the womb. But it's development. The baby grows, different systems come online, etc. But it's still in the same place. When it's time for the baby to be born, massive forces come into being. First of all, there's a constriction that stops it from being safe and nurturing for the baby and starts to make it constricting. Do we not feel that now? This isn't comfortable. Whoa, what's happening here? And the heartbeat accelerates and the forces, the pressure comes on, and then the baby starts to move through a smaller and smaller space, more and more constriction in a back and forth pattern of tension and relaxation. But that's the transition point where we are right now, moving through from one state of being to another state of being. But at the end of this process, and what this process is about, is instead of the baby going into the womb, the baby's coming out of the womb. So there was the initial inversion as God hid himself to create, to allow for creation. And now there is the counter inversion on the other end of the process. And that's where we are, that allows God to once again reveal that there's nothing but God. What's the difference is what's been gestated and what is being born right now is that knowing is not for God alone. It's not from a place where there is only God, so yeah, there's nothing but God. It's from a place where there has been, where the land has been captured by the wild, conflicting 7 nations, so to speak, on a cosmic level, and where the power of free choice also resides. And this is why the Torah starts with Bereshit, in the beginning. Because when we understand what the game is, when we understand what forces we're dealing with, when we understand that each one of us has all of that within our own beings, when we understand that, and then the tools of how to navigate, the deeper learning, whatever. But once we really get that, it's a whole different ball game. So the inversion is to take the darkness. The first inversion was to take the light and to conceal it with darkness so that the game could start. Let the games begin. The end of the game, that inversion is to bring back the light, but again, not the light from outside of there's nothing else. Of course, God's infinite. What else is there? There's only God. That's it. But to give the land into the hands of the 7 nations, so to speak, and then also to Israel. What's Israel? Everything is literal, but everything is also deeply allegorical on many, many levels, deeper and deeper. There's a code to the Torah. Israel resides on the right side of your heart. The land of the 7 nations resides on the left side of your heart. Israel is the level of the soul. Let's say in a simple sense, it's called the neshama. It's the consciousness of the soul that we don't have much access to, backed up by the superconscious of the soul. And the left side of the heart is also the soul. It's the nephesh level. It's called the nephesh Bahamis, or the animalistic soul, but it's the soul. It's the same soul. It's just in different vessels. So the soul's coming in, showing up more on the right side, very concealed on the left side, in a state that they're in conflict. Even the left side is in constant conflict with itself. What's the point? The inversion should happen. The heart should be trained, disciplined, conquered, to the point where the inversion can happen and the light can flow in. Once the light flows into the heart, as opposed to, like, let's say, a Garden of Eden state where the light is flowing into the garden. But once the light flows into the heart, and once you have done the work to invert, to transform and invert to conquer those 7 nations, knowing that God put those 7 nations in your heart. In the beginning, God created I'll repeat this in case you weren't here from the beginning. But in the beginning, the Torah says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the question is asked by Rashi, the premier commentator of the Torah. Why does the Torah start with this? Why do we need to know God's credentials, where the world came from? It's all about what we should do. It's about the mitzvahs. And the answer is that in the future, people will say to you, you are robbers because you conquered the lands of the 7 nations, and you have to answer them. And listen to how it's phrased. It was God's will to give. God created the world. It was God's will. So he's the boss. His will to give it to those 7 nations. It was his will to put those 7 qualities in your heart, those wild barbarians in your heart. And your soul is in there with it. But Those barbarians are pretty strong. And now it's his will to take it away from them and give it to you. Except, sounds great, except that you have to conquer it. That's the whole story of the Torah. We are here to be co-creators. In the Garden of Eden, everything was just given to us, to Adam and Eve. I say us because we all come from those souls. We're all parts of those souls. But now, the whole process, the whole point of the process was that God should not shine from without, outside of us only, but actually be revealed within us, in our human self. The left side of the heart is the human part of you. It's the part where, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, what's going on around here? That's the left side of the heart. It's the part of you that's connected to the ego that gets triggered, that gets hurt, that wants things, that feels all this stuff. It gets excited too. It's passionate part, but it's given into the hands of the 7 nations. And it's up to us to take it out, to occupy, to conquer, knowing that God is with us. One of the big stories of the Torah is the story of the spies. The Meraglim, Moses sent out 12 spies, one from each tribe, 12 spies, to tour the land to see how wonderful it was. Because God said, I'm giving you this land. And the people were like, well, we like it here in the desert with the manna and the, don't have to wash our clothes and we don't have to go to work and we can study Torah all day and it's great. And God said that, and besides that, the land is, we don't know this land, what's going to happen when we move into this land, why do we even want it? So Moses sent the heads of the tribes to tour the land. And what they saw was the land was full of giants. And the giants were fighting with each other. They were battling it out and they were burying their dead. And they brought back, actually, I'm sure you might have seen pictures of this, of two people in like tunics or skirts carrying grapes on a bunch of grapes on a pole. So they brought back, the Torah relates, giant fruits. Everything in the land was giant, like a big, a bunch of grapes as big as half a room. One person couldn't carry it. So they brought back these fruits, but not to show how incredible the land was, but to show how impossible it was to conquer. And isn't that the feeling that we often wake up with in the morning? I can't do this. I can't. And I tried. I can't. What's even no point of trying? I can't do this. I can't do this. And that's why the very first commandment, the very first words of the Torah, the blueprint for creation, the first words are, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Because when there's a part of you that says, don't bother me, this isn't real, I can't, there's another part of you that has to come and say, God created this world. He made me like this on purpose. And now he's telling me it's time to take over, to conquer my heart with my soul so that I can live in a wonderful, upgraded body in an incredible, divine world, not as a passive recipient, but as a co-creator, so that I can know not only my own soul from the inside and yours from the inside, but God from the inside of me as well. That's what it means to conquer the land at this time. That is the inversion, that the level of the inversion that we are being called to now. So you can listen to this or not listen to it. You can agree with it and not agree with it. You can let it move you or not move you. You can let it move you to commitment, to take action and to engage in a new way of being. That's your free choice. But I'm here to tell you what the blueprint is, what the paradigm is, what the path forward is, what these deeper truths are that come from the blueprint, so that you have what you need to navigate these transformational times when things are shaking up and breaking up. That is because we're not waking up. Okay, the job is going to get done whether you like it or not. I'm here to support doing it in a way that can make you fly, okay, that can generate miracles, that will make you experience what it feels like to be a partner in creation. Is it always easy? No. Is it always rewarding? 100%. It is the higher road. It is the imaginal cells of the butterfly. When you walk this path, you are taking part in bringing in the light of the future into your own self and through your own self. And God does it with you. This is not work we do alone. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If you resonate with this, please like the video, share the video. I'd love to hear your comments and questions if you want to know more. just get a little taste of what this is about, you can sign up for free for the 7 Kabbalah secrets that will change your life. That is at my website, which is scrolling beneath the video here, www.gateofunity.com. And I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.